Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the May 20th Board of Education meeting. My name is Jim Stobie, and I'd like to welcome you tonight. We will first start off with a roll.
Mrs. Gardner?
Here.
Mrs. McAvina?
Here.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Here.
Mr. Sherbin?
Here.
Mr. Stobie?
Here. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, I believe we are going to start today with a special presentation from Troy.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is our last school spotlight for the school year, and we have Troy Intermediate School, and I want to acknowledge Mrs. Langle and Mrs. Scanlon are here with several of their students, and I'm going to get their PowerPoint right up for them. And here's the clicker. All right. Yep. Of the left and the right arrows.
Thank you all for coming to this year's Troy Intermediate presentation. I'm Carla Kretschmer, and I'm going to be presenting the first 3 slides. Here at Troy, we follow 4 main things: adaptable, life-ready, character, and set for success. We're adaptable by contributing to many things throughout this year. We've been ready for every class, listening, and being super respectful to all of our teachers. Being life-ready, I'd like to shout out one of our teachers, Mrs. Lot, for teaching us a lot about this year's STEM and STEAM programs and how they can prepare us for next year's and life's careers. Then our character. Here at Troy, everyone is kind and respectful and says hellos in the hallways and can help you with any problems you might have here. Next, I'd like to mention our set for success. Here at Troy, we're always ready and always critical thinkers. We're constantly thinking about the next step that we can take to continue our path here at the school. Here we have an acronym, and it stands for Troy. We have teamwork, responsibility, outstanding effort, and young leaders. Now I'm going to hand off the finger to Hayes and Quinn from 5th grade.
Teamwork in learning and leadership. Collaboration on projects, supporting the community, working together in sports, music, and
There are some pictures up there, and in the middle and the top right, there are collaboration on projects. And in the bottom left, there's the Friendship APL donation, which is supporting the community. Then in the bottom right, top left, and top middle, there are extracurriculars and sports. Top left and top middle demonstrate sports, and bottom right demonstrates music.
At Troy, we have expectations for responsibility in academics and character. We strive to complete assignments and projects on time with dedication. We also show respect for teachers, classmates, and the Shore Way at school and when representing our school in the community. Students who demonstrate exceptional responsibility are recognized each month and quarter with awards. I received the Life Ready in Leadership. We also earn Shore Bucks that can be entered into raffles for prizes. Responsible students check Power School regularly to make sure they have no flagged assignments that are missing or late. For my team, I also check the captain's website to review what my teachers post on the calendar of assignments and events. It is also our responsibility to use when I need time during the day for extra help and catch-up work or extracurriculars. Outstanding effort in academics and activities is shown all around Troy. Students have participated in spelling bees and math competitions. Students have created impressive artwork in art class and STEM projects. Our PTA has planned many activity nights.
Okay, so these are some examples of outstanding efforts. So on the top left and right, these are our 5th grade students that are making instruments out of like cardboard and other materials. The bottom left is the Troy Career Quest that we did, where we got like examples of all the jobs that we could have in our future that Ms. Malat provided. The bottom middle is I'm blanking right now, with Troy Palooza. We did it for our music class. Like we went for like a ton of like music competitions and stuff, and we also made a banner, which is seen in the back. They were the brain rotters, which is really cool, in my opinion. Thank you.
Our next concept at Troy is young leaders who are always growing and striving to achieve their goals. One way we do this is by setting a positive example through kindness and respect. Throughout the halls, you can see many of the students being kind to anybody else in the hallway. We can also take initiative in school activities. This year, we had a drive to get Christmas gifts for like kids in hospitals so that they could have like a bright, fun Christmas. We also donate to the Friendship APL Drive, which helps homeless like pets throughout Larian County. Another skill we use is developing skills for future success, which like also involved our career quest. So we had business owners and employees, and they came in and talked about their jobs and helped us like learn what we can do to have success in the future.
On the left is our Cupid Shuffle, which is a school dance that we all do together. It is supervised by teachers, but the kids can do what they want and dance around. On the second row on the left, we have our Christmas tree donations, which was for the hospital, and we donated to all the kids, and children put toys under the trees for all the kids in the hospitals.
On the top right, that shows our school ambassadors. Ambassadors were great leaders when they visited elementary schools and told the 4th graders about 5th grade. They explained everything to the 4th graders they needed to know to help them feel more comfortable for moving to 5th grade. On the bottom right, this shows Career Quest. Career Quest was an event where several parents with many different careers came to visit and showcase their careers. This event allowed us to independently show our interests, which helped us show which careers we may enjoy. Thank you, 5th graders Hayes Ruth, Quinn Buer, Amelia Springer, Bryce Ferguson, and me, Ella Golden. Thank you, 6th graders Carly Kretschmar, Marin Pilkington, Audrey Rona, and Ella Geis.
I guess on behalf of the board, I just want to thank all you guys for coming tonight. I don't know if public speaking is taught at Troy, but we have some future public speakers in this group. You guys did an amazing job communicating and sharing your stories, so we really appreciate you coming tonight. And Troy looks like a lot of fun. I wish I was still there. So.
And actually, Ella was talking about the 4th grade visits, and this morning when I was over there, the 4th graders from Erie View were over there getting their tours and having a good time, and the students that were given the tours were doing a fantastic job. And students, before you leave, there's still cupcakes left, so don't be shy and feel free to grab one on your way out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Go grab them. There you go. Now the cupcake's gone. Poof.
And students and parents who came for the presentation, don't feel like you need to stay for the rest of the meeting. We do appreciate you coming tonight, though. Before we get into our business part of the meeting tonight, Ms. Magyar, I think we have some news to share.
Just a little bit. Today, if you don't know, was the certification of the election results, and in that meeting today, we found out that we increased our vote total by 20 votes instead of the 16 that we were at. We are still within that percentage that it is required by law to do a recount. That recount is going to start happening on Thursday, where they pick up to 5% of our voting precincts to hand count. And then the remainder of that vote will be electronic tabulated again for a recount on May 28th at 9 o'clock in the morning, and certified then that later in that day at 3 p.m. So we were excited about the results that came out today. We had some conversations with people at the election board afterwards that stated that never in their history have they had a recount that has yielded different results. So we're pretty optimistic and excited about what we heard today.
Great, thank you.
And that was for issue 16, the bond issue, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Just as a quick reflection, this has been, somewhat of about a 5-year journey to get to this point, and while it's not quite official yet, we do really feel good about the process we went through to hopefully arrive at a solution that the community, the majority of the community accepts, and we understand that this was not an easy process for anyone involved, and I think as a board we've learned a lot through it. And the way I have described this to other people is that I feel like what we put on the ballot this time was the best version of a compromise with the community to accomplish our goals. And I think that was reflective in the vote this time. So thank you.
Yes, I'd like to add to that too. We have learned a lot, and I just would like to express our sincere gratitude and thankfulness to the community for supporting both of these issues. It's a big deal, and thank you.
Yeah. So we will May 24th is the official? 28th, okay. All right, and I assume we will send something out in the school newsletter to
yes.
Send this on. Okay. Moving forward, the next item on our agenda tonight is our public participation. Just as a reminder, public participation at our board meetings is permitted to allow members of the public to address the board on issues of public concern and is not intended as a forum for extended conversation or two-way dialogue with the board members or district officials. The primary role of the board is to listen and reflect on your comments. Sometimes board members may respond or ask questions, but not always. Whether we respond or not, your input is valued. The participation for general comments must be relevant to the school district, and those who wish to address the board must fill out a comment card. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak until a total of 30 minutes is used. Dr. Debe, do we have any speakers tonight?
I do. I have one speaker so far tonight. Gerald Phillips.
I want to fix the mic. There you go.
Yeah, that's fine. Gerald W. Phillips, concerned Avon Lake resident, also an attorney, tax attorney, certified public accountant, and a critic of the TIF proposed for the Avon Lake power plant. On November 19th, I presented to this board a handout with some additional information. I was here on December 17th with some additional information. I also, part of the handout, gave a very good visual presentation of what a TIF does and what ALERG is proposing, which is Avon Lake Environmental Redevelopment Group. They want a 30-year, 100% year TIF. I view that as a corporate subsidy, because what all that do will take money away from the school district. And I handed out to you the interim development agreement, which the City Council approved on November 12, 2024, where they agree to buy part of that parkland for $15 million and also put improvements for $15 million. That $30 million, which is going to be used to buy the land, is coming from this school district. $30 million is being taken from you and given to the city to buy land that they don't have to buy. That's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And there's only one council person who really understands this interim development agreement. In that interim development agreement, they're asking for overlay zoning, 121901. That zoning requires that they provide 20 acres minimum of parkland. So to get the zoning, they have to do that. But instead of them providing it, the city has decided to buy the land for $15 million and improve it. It's totally useless. We don't have to buy that land. So you need to be aware of it. You know, only person on council that understands that is Mr. Shamir. I know you in the past have indicated your opposition to the TIF. I would like you to pass a resolution opposing it. I urge all residents of Avon Lake to listen to the council meetings, listen to the critics, and I put on a program on the Avon Lake community TV channel talking about the TIF. Listen to it, residents, so you know what's best for the community of Avon Lake. Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next speaker is Meg Drelishek.
Good evening. I've been here a few times. So my name is Megan Drelishek. I am a parent here in Avon Lake with 2 kids in the district currently. And usually when I'm here talking to you guys, it's talking to you as a mom who stands on the playground and talks to a lot of parents just through casual conversation, and also as we've gone through these levy and bond issues, kind of what their concerns have been. I don't know how many people follow things on social media, but I've also extended myself to other people in the community. If somebody wasn't comfortable to come up and speak it in this kind of forum, to please reach out to me and I'd be happy to bring up some of their concerns. So I'm also now a sub in the district, so I've been doing that for about 2 months. So I have now been in each of the buildings, seen, you know, where improvements obviously need to be done, and then where moving forward, we're hoping to see some of these things. So a couple of the first things that I've kind of heard from parents and that I think want to be voiced is the question of, a lot of the parents are the ones who are not only, I mean, there is other people in the community footing this bill, but a lot of the parents and the people that are supporting this bill are parents in the district. And so with the not passing in November, we experienced a lot of cuts and a lot of things that are going to be taken off of the availability in our district. So that being the cost of kindergarten going up to, you know, from $2,400, I'm currently paying that to, if my daughter stays within the district, to $6,000, which is a huge increase. And we understand the difference of half-day kindergarten being paid partially by the state and then what the district has to pay. But is there any opportunity to reevaluate that cost with the passing of the levy? Because for these parents who have been supporting this, been supporting the district, a lot of us bought property in the district well before we had children, now having to foot a bill that is exponentially higher than what it had. And one of the things that had been brought up in a meeting in which we sat was, well, we should have increased the cost years ago. Well, now we're taking more than 30% increase on that. And a lot of parents, that's a very big concern. The other is the consideration for the busing, because there are a lot of parents who, whether they have been redistricted or have kids at 2 different schools, now with the busing changing to a 1-mile radius, are now in a situation where their child doesn't have transportation or their children do not have transportation. And as a district that is focusing on our community and our children and providing what is best for them, is there any reconsideration for those 2 topics? There's more, but I'm running out of time, so I'm going to leave it at those 2 for today. So thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, our final speaker is Lee Boss.
Hello, my name is Lee Boss. Have two kids in the district here. We're in a kindergarten and second grade first. So not to beat on the same drum too much, but mainly wanted to bring up in looking at the busing plans for next year that I don't pretend to understand all of or a lot of. That I know it's a complicated thing in trying to figure out all of those cuts and how to make everything work. My main concern is really just, of course, we live the other side of electric with my kids going to Redwood, but I mean, throughout the district, really just wanted to raise the concern that for us, Walker or 83 or Lake Road, they're kind of given those concessions of trying to not have students cross those. Electric for us feels very much the same, where you don't really have other than at 83, you don't really have good crosswalks or places to cross. And at the times of day, beginning and end of school, pretty similar for traffic. A lot of us already go out to Lake Road that are in between Lake and Electric. They're the other side of Electric from most of from Troy and Redwood. That we already go up to Lake Road for our bus stop currently. And would just like to propose with any of the districts. Again, I'm most dialed into Redwood because it's where my kids are currently, but I think with any of them, kind of just making sure that we've looked at Electric or how the families in between there, if there's an easy win there that could not really add in bus stops, just a little bit in volume. So yeah, with that, I'll cut things off a little bit early here, but thank you guys very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda tonight is our treasurer's consent items. What did I miss? Oh, I'm sorry, I scrolled down too far. Sorry about that. Next item on our agenda is our approval of the minutes of the April 15th meeting. Did anyone have any issues with those minutes? All right. I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 15th meeting.
I so move.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, now we will move to the treasurer's report.
Thank you. For your consideration, we do have the treasurer's consent items, which is comprised of very much a lot of normal business for this time of year. We have our regular monthly reports. We do have 2 transfers for funds that will no longer we will no longer be using them for the upcoming school year, so they're transferring their balances to another fund. We have appropriation amendments and the approval of the then and now purchase orders, as well as our pre-K to 8 student fees for the upcoming school year. We have a 6-year agreement with Savas Learning Company for the high school social studies curriculum, a service agreement with Shakely Unemployment Insurance Cost Control, as well as an agreement between the Ohio Workers' Comp and Shakely Uniservice. We have a service agreement with Education Alternatives for the upcoming school year, as well as a transportation agreement with Education Alternatives for the upcoming year. An agreement with the ESC of Northeast Ohio for the PEP program for the upcoming school year. We have an agreement for the ESC of Lorain County Board of Developmental Disabilities for the upcoming school year, as well as a county multi-service agreement with the Lorain County ESC. We also have our interagency agreement between Head Start, Lorain County Board of Developmental Disabilities, Lorain County Local Education Agencies, and Early Intervention Services of Lorain County, as well as the Mercy Health Transportation Physicals contract. We have an agreement with Frontline Education for, this is an annual recurring agreement for the Frontline Central Time and Attendance Program. An agreement with KCE Champions, LLC. Joelle, I'm not sure, did you want to mention a little bit about that?
Yes, so we, in listening to our families and understanding that we have some costs that are, definitely going to be put upon our families this year, it was suggested, I think, from one of these meetings to possibly look at our before and after care program, if there's any way to provide families some relief for that program. So we reached out to Champions, who is our current provider of before and after care, and talked through our situation and said, here's where we are. And they were able to reduce our fees that we charge our families for before and after care, as well as with an increase of students that will be participating in our half-day kindergarten program, and some information that came out of our preschool. We will be providing a wrap service this year for our families. And what that means is that if parents have kids that are in half-day kindergarten, either in the morning or the afternoon, we will provide daycare services in the middle of the day for those families who may need, if they go in the morning class, we will bus them to the location where we're having the wrap services in the afternoon, and parents who sign their kids up for PM kindergarten, who need to drop their kids off earlier, can do that, and then we will take those kids to their afternoon classes as well. So making some changes just out of listening to what our community has asked us to do, and Champions was very willing to look at our price cost for that, and also to be able to provide a wrap service for our families. So we're hoping that that is helpful. So that the agreement in here is not, we had just signed an agreement with Champions last year. This is an amendment to that reflects the reduced costs and the additional program that we're going to be able to offer our families for this upcoming school year.
To give the other board members some context, I know when we used Champions for after-school care, we paid $200 a week. This is showing $46.
Yes.
That is significant.
I was going to ask for an example. So it's going from $200 a week to $46
Well, that was for
a week?
2 kids, just to keep in mind. Mine was
So
what's an average for one?
I think we had the prices in the documents.
Yeah.
I can't.
So the costs have been reduced significantly by Champions.
Huh.
I know it doesn't solve the bigger problem, but I do see how this could be.
Could be helpful, and the wrap service was something that our families have asked for, if we could provide that. And not having space, we were able to locate a space, so those wrap services are actually going to be here at the high school in 2 rooms that are right off the one entrance. We will provide busing in the middle of that day. So preschool and kindergarten have to have separate spaces because preschool requirements require a different amount of square footage per student than a school-age child. So because we don't have room in our buildings to do this before, we have identified some space with our decreasing enrollment and not needing to use as many classrooms. First floor, accessible to bathrooms. The staff at Champions has come out to see those spaces. They are appropriate for the midday care that we will be providing for both of those groups of kids.
So I see in the grid here, it's 46 for 3 to 5 days for one child. You're saying, how much was it before for one child, just so I can get a single comparison?
We did still get the 10% discount, but we paid $190 for 2 kids for 3 to 5 days.
Okay,
So,
this is more than half, okay.
And it looks like this extends, the after-school program extends to 6 p.m., which does help a little bit with the challenges potentially with busing or other issues. Other questions on the consent items? I know a lot of those are normal business annual contracts with service providers that we deal with every year, but can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next up is our 5-year forecast update.
The 5-year forecast for May, it's an update to our forecast that we presented in November. This is required by law. Let me get on this next slide. So, as I mentioned, it is required by law. We have to submit a board-approved 5-year forecast to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. That the forecast reflects only our general fund, no other funds within the school district, and that's just part of what is required by law. Our forecast is prepared based on historical trends and any current factors that we're looking at, but variables do change. They can change tomorrow. We can have something pop up, and we have had that happen in our community before. So I always try and remind everyone our forecast is truly a snapshot in time as to where we are right now. If we look at the simplified financial statement, so what this is doing is this is taking our 5-year forecast, which the full document for the 5-year forecast is about a little over 25, 26 pages long. That is available on our district website. It is linked in our agenda as well, but this is a much more condensed version that's looking at a very high level by fiscal year. What's our cash balance? How do we look from a revenue and expense standpoint, and then what's our ending cash balance for each one of those years. And as you can see, our last operating levy was passed 12 years ago in 2013. It generated $6.5 million annually. It was an emergency levy. In May of 25, our community did support, which we greatly appreciate, a $3 million emergency levy, which has stabilized our forecast. You will see that in the numbers as we get deeper into the forecast. And just a reminder that emergency levies are for a fixed dollar amount, and this ask was much smaller, over 50% smaller than what it was back in 2013. And by the end of this forecast, our cash balance will be equivalent to about 3.5 months cash on hand. So again, we'll get into more details further into the forecast. But you can see that in fiscal 29, we will have an ending cash balance of almost $19 million. That seems like a lot of money, but that's about 3.5 months of bills. So though it seems like a lot of money in comparison to our budgets at home, for the school district's budget, again, about 3.5 months cash on hand. So as you can see in the forecast, levy cycles build up cash in the beginning. And then the purpose of that is as you go out those 10 years for the levy, you're able to then you have the revenue to pay for those future expenses in those years of the levy cycle.
Autumn, maybe to say that another way, the $3 million emergency levy is a fixed dollar amount, $3 million each year for 10 years, but we would know that in any environment there's going to be inflation for expenses, so inflation will go up to drive up expenses over those 10 years, whereas our revenue will stay the same. That is correct. The only time that we would see an increase in revenue is if there would be a positive reappraisal on inside millage, but as we saw in this previous cycle, reappraisal occurs every 6 years, and every 3 years there's a triennial update. So that's why you see in fiscal 27 there is a small increase in revenue projected related to that triennial update. So as we dig a little bit deeper into our revenue is comprised of local sources, state sources, as well as all other revenue. So in fiscal 25, as I mentioned, reappraisal occurred. So we did see additional revenue related to just reappraisal occurring and all the factors that are tied to that, such as the 20 mil floor, inside millage, and new construction growth. In fiscal 26, since the levy passed in May of 25, we will see half a year's collection in fiscal 26 and a full year collection in fiscal 27. So that's why you see an increase.
in revenue. Our state funding does include a per pupil base cost. It includes per pupil base cost funding and other funding components of the funding formula. Just a note of reference that the state is currently undergoing the process to work on a budget bill for the next 2 fiscal years. So that has not been decided on yet. So the forecast could change related to our state funding dependent upon what is decided on in Columbus.
Autumn, is any federal funding we receive fall into the all other category?
It does not. Our federal funding by law, we're required to book that in like a separate checkbook.
Okay.
So the general fund is only going to
Got
be
it.
our general operating money.
Thank you for that reminder.
You're welcome. And we do have a few state grants that if we are eligible for those and are fortunate enough to receive them, that is not included in the general fund either. So as I mentioned, the Ohio legislature is currently working through that budget process, but if you look at where we are today, the funding formula has a total per pupil base cost of $8,085. That's Avon Lake City Schools base cost formula. And of that $8,085, Avon Lake receives $808 per pupil. So on average, the statewide average to educate one student is $15,500 approximately. So if you think about that, it costs over $15,000 to educate a child. The state's supposed to give us almost $8,100, but we only receive a little over $800 per student. And that's because in the state's eyes, Avon Lake is looked at as a district that has a greater capacity to tax locally. And that is all driven by what is determined by our state legislator. So that's part of the process that's going on right now. So the local share of funding is about 90% of the cost to educate a child, and the state is paying about 10%. So to give you a little comparison, probably about maybe 12 years ago, 15 years ago, we weren't even getting $350 per student. So it hasn't increased that much over time.
It feels like this is the tension we feel at the local level, though, because, and I appreciate the comments about the cost of kindergarten and other things where, we have a small population in that particular grade level, and then you're asking this community more, and it's hard to find that right balance in terms of what people are already kind of carrying here. I know that's maybe obvious, but I think it's worth stating. It's just continues to be a challenge. Are we meeting on any of that relative at the state level? Do we have lobbyists involved in that, Joelle?
Yep, absolutely, we do. Just everything that they're trying to throw in the budget right now with as we looked at our cash balance in 2029, there's legislation right now that they want to be able to cap that and make all school districts pay down any cash balance that would be over 30%, which would be devastation to many school districts throughout the state. So we have a lot of lobbyist groups who are currently down there testifying daily just because of all of these changes. They're also looking not to fund the Fair School Funding Plan in the House version, and I may have it backwards, so don't quote me. The House version, they had taken out funding the last 2 years of the funding formula. Senate put it back in, or vice versa, put it back in, and then wanted to add some additional funds to it. So we're down there, our superintendent's groups are down there lobbying hard to say, please fund the rest of the formula at least, or add some additional funds to what you're currently doing, because the education budget has been cut drastically and trying to put a stronghold on some of what they want us to spend our money on, which is really concerning. So we're watching it very closely.
Remind me of the timeline of that. Do we know when they're?
June 30th.
June 30th.
So as we look at our expenditures, you can see about 76% of our budget is personnel. That's salaries and benefits. And we're a service industry, not unlike any other service industry, where that's primarily the largest portion of our budget. We do have purchase services, supplies, and capital outlay that account for about 24%. And you can see the annual expenditures that are both actual and projected as well on this slide. When you look at our revenue compared to expenditures, a very simplistic way to look at it is this chart. The blue line is our total revenue, the yellow line is our total expenditures. And you always want that blue line to be higher than the yellow line. If it's not, it means you're deficit spending. And once you begin deficit spending, it can add up extremely quickly and eat away at your cash balance. So from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 29, our total revenues are projected to change by about 5.86%, and our total expenses are projected to change by about 4.45%. And I mentioned days cash on hand a little earlier in the presentation. If you look at our current forecast compared to the prior forecast is in green and our current forecast is in orange. You can see that by fiscal 29, we were at a negative 3 days cash on hand, which, as we've said previously, the state doesn't allow us to be in that financial position. They will come in and take over your school district if you're in that position, and that is something that we do not want to have happen. So with this levy passage, this emergency levy passage, this has allowed us to stabilize our budget, and we're looking at about 111 days cash on hand, which again is about 3.5 months of expenses for us by the time we get to fiscal 29. So the district has made approximately $2.5 million in salary and benefit reductions between fiscal 25 and fiscal 26. The compounding effect that that has on our forecast is significant. So if you look at each year of the forecast, we have inflationary factors that are applied to each one of the expenses in our forecast. So by making a reduction in our largest line item of our forecast, it does impact our forecast significantly over the course of 5 years.
And Autumn, correct me if I'm wrong, but the revenue coming in is only tied to, in this forecast, is tied to the emergency levy that was passed, but the expenditures also that help this orange line get bigger, we were able to remove some expenses from our general fund, like repairs to the elementary schools, and shift them to the bond that had also passed. So that also, when we said they were tied together, they are both positively impacting our 5-year forecast, correct?
That is correct. So just a summary of our projected revenue, expenses, and cash balance. The blue is revenue, yellow expenses, and then the line is our cash balance. So again, the emergency levy was greatly needed and greatly appreciated that the community supported the passage of that $3 million emergency levy. In the long term, there will be substantial operating savings. And the reason for that is we're going to consolidate grades 5 through 8 through a bond issue. And Ms. Magyar talked about that earlier tonight, about there being a recount, but currently we're ahead by 20 votes with that bond issue. So assuming passage of that bond issue, we will be able to close the Troy building, also close the Learwood building, consolidate those 2 buildings, and then we also have our Erie View closure that will occur at the end of the school year. all of that will have a positive impact on the 5-year forecast. There are not any savings outside of Erie View factored into this forecast associated with the bond issue, outside of pulling out some operating expenses that we had for Erie View, as well as repairs to some roofs, a few HVAC controls. We did pull those things out of the forecast because that will be rolled into the bond issues and repairs that will occur at the elementary buildings, as Mr. Sherman mentioned earlier. But we do anticipate that there will be significant savings for our general fund once that building is built.
The other point on this too is, and this is not an income statement item, but we had the potential liability of somewhere between the neighborhood of $50 or $60 million of repairs at Learwood and Troy that we would have faced at some point in the future. Now we're going to be able to repurpose those dollars through the bond into building new construction, which hopefully will last a lifetime, so to speak, but definitely beyond the length of the bond that we'll be paying off. So.
I would just also add that in this forecast, you do not, as Autumn stated, you're not seeing any savings for when we get to that point when we're closing Troy and Learwood. They're not reflected because they didn't happen yet, and they won't happen probably until that 2029 mark, where that next 5-year projected out will include those savings from closing those buildings as well. So, we are, in my opinion, we're in a really good spot here for the next 5 years. It's even probably going to look very similar for the 5 years to follow when we capture those savings from closing those other buildings as well.
Yeah, I think it gives us clarity as to what our building plan will be, which is we can make the decisions from a point of knowledge of what that will look like, as opposed to trying to guess at what needs to be done and repairs in more buildings, since we'll be going from eventually 7 buildings down to 5.
That's correct. And I would encourage all of you, again, the 5-year forecast includes each one of the line items. This is a very high-level overview of the 5-year forecast. Please, if you have time, pull it up off of our district website or off of the agenda and read about each one of those line items. There's a lot of details that's provided in the 5-year forecast that the community may find helpful in understanding how our funding works, where our funding comes from, what we spend our money on, and how all of it fits together. So that is a document that will be available within the agenda as well on the Treasurer's webpage if you're interested in viewing it. So I would entertain any questions that you have.
Okay, motion to approve the 5-year forecast.
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item was to schedule our special board meeting in June. I know we had traded a couple emails about this. I was going to propose Thursday the 29th at 7:30 a.m. if we can get 4 out of 5 of us to be there at that point in time.
The 26th.
I'm sorry, I got that wrong, but yeah, Thursday the 26th.
Approximately how long does the meeting last?
This is a very quick meeting. It's just to finalize our end of the year numbers and then open the new fiscal year. I would say 20 minutes tops.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
I am unavailable. I'm unavailable from the 18th to the 30th.
We would need a minimum of 3 board members there in order to finalize our numbers, because by law, we do have to have those final numbers to the county auditor by June 30th.
Friday, June 27th, 7:30.
No, Thursday.
Thursday.
What time?
7:30.
7:30, okay.
I can be there.
I have a board meeting on Friday morning, so I can't make it.
I will be there.
Okay. So Thursday at 7:30.
I will not be there, as well as I will be grandma-ing.
Okay. Can I have a motion to, do we need a motion for that?
We do.
Can I have a motion to approve the date of the special board meeting in June?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Is the location here?
The location will be here because we will be audio recording that meeting as well.
Okay.
Here in the Lake Center.
All right. Moving on to the superintendent's consent items.
Before we have we're going to make an amendment to the agenda. There were just a couple of things that were left off of this section, so I'm just going to read them for the record. Autumn does have has a copy of the changes, and we'll make it reflected in the minutes. So I'd like to amend the agenda for another contract recommendation of Colin Horvath, our technology specialist, who was just accidentally left off the list for renewal for his contract. And then we had a resignation of a substitute. Nina Kashak is on the resignation list, so we can make a motion to amend the agenda with those recommendations, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now, for your consideration, we have item A, our certified personnel. These are contracts that we are required to renew yearly, our limited contracts, as well as the recommendations for new and continuing contracts. We have some additional compensation to be paid for some mentors that have worked this year. Some additional compensation up to 8 hours for our district reassignment and move for all of those employees listed there. We have some extended day services, mainly for our guidance counselors at the high schools, and our school psychologists and our instructional coaches. And we have our administrative contract recommendations for 2 of our administrators. Classified personnel recommendations for employment as listed. We have some of our student workers. We have some resignations of our student workers in our classified area. Some additional compensation, again, to be paid for mentoring. Support staff substitutes for the upcoming school year for the 25-26 as listed there as needed. And we have some seasonal support substitute contracted. These are people that would be working for us over the summer. And we have supplemental contracts. These are mainly our coaching recommendations for the coming up fall. And we have our St. Joseph Auxiliary Service contracts for St. Joe's services for next year. Support staff substitute rate increase by 25 cents. And we have a couple donations that were made to the school, so friend of the school donations, and our athletic game day personnel recommendations for help with our games for next year.
From an overall viewpoint with staffing heading into the summer, are you feeling like we are in a good position with where all our positions are somewhat filled, still some moving parts? What's your take on that?
So yes, because we're doing very little hiring, I think we are in a good spot with that. Many of our supplementals are filled for the fall. There's a couple still that are that we're looking at, and our academic supplementals will be on your next month's board agenda.
For the supplementals for the coaches in the fall, am I allowed to vote on that one? I didn't see it split out, and I'm fine with abstaining if it wasn't split out.
Let me get back to that page. Do you have somebody listed there that you're related to, Mr. Sherbin?
I am related to one of the coaches in the fall, yes.
So you might want to abstain. We should have listed it. We should have put it out. Sorry
okay.
about that.
I don't see her listed. No, I don't see her listed.
She's not listed? Okay. Well, then I think you're okay.
Yeah, as long as Meg is not listed on here.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the superintendent's consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Next resolution, Mrs. Magyar.
Next item for your consideration is the resolution authorizing the closure of a school building at the end of the 24-25 school year and providing the assignment of those students for the 25-26 school year. This is our resolution to officially close Erie View at the end of the school year and allow for those kids to be redistricted to other schools.
I want to make one comment about this closure, and I continue to get this question about us turning that into an administrative building, and I just want to go on record to say that we are not doing that, just as a point of clarification here for people to maybe hear that. It is not my understanding that we have any plans to do that.
We do not have any plans to do that. We are in current talks with the city of Avon Lake, who is very interested in that building and working through the details of what that can look like for the city of Avon Lake. They have been over to that building 3 times now, visiting with the mayor, with different staff from the city to look at office space, to talk about how they can best use that space and keep it viable for the community. They currently run their daycare, their day camp program at that property, and so they're very interested in maintaining that program there. But no, there is no plans whatsoever to turn it into administrative offices. My guess is it will become a city facility at some point once we can work through those details.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Gardner,
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina,
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin,
Yes.
Mr. Stobie.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next
Item B for your consideration is a creation of a position of a kitchen manager floater. Currently, we have kitchen managers at each of our building. With the closure of the building, we have 1 additional kitchen manager. We are always, looking short-staffed sometimes in our kitchen staff. So we worked an agreement out with our union to create this position that he can float, and reduces our need to get substitutes if somebody should be out for a long term. So.
Can I have a motion to approve that MOU?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mr. Sherbin,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina,
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar,
Yes.
Mrs. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Stobie.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 12 is the first reading of the revisions to the Avon Lake Board of Education Policy Manual. So as I stated at the beginning of this school year, we were going through a policy overhaul, switching from one provider to another provider for our policies. And our administrative team has engaged in some great work this year, going through and looking at our current policies and then revising some of those policies, deciding to keep some of our old policies, but intertwine them with some new policy. And so this has been quite a process this year. There's, as you probably saw in the link, I think there's over 372 new policies. This is the first step, and as you know, with policy reading, anytime a board adopts it, there's 2 reads. So there's no vote on this tonight. This is considered first read. I'm sure all of you got the link and looked at all 372 policies and know them inside and out. I would say many of us on the administrative team do know them inside and out, just because it's been a long process. It's been 9 months of work. We started this work in August of this past school year, and here we are for you first read in May, and it's been quite a process to go through, but I think we've done a really good job of representing what we believe in, what our laws are here in the state of Ohio. The next step in this process, just so you know, you'll take a vote on these new policies. They will go into effect July 1 of this year. Our next set of work around these is to develop those administrative guidelines. So the policies is like what we do, and the administrative guidelines tell us how to do that. Not every policy will have an administrative guideline. Those do not require board approval, so that we can, as we change processes or update our systems, that we can just update how we do business through the administrative guidelines. But that is the second step in this work that will be taking place this summer and early into fall. Any questions about any of the policies that you read?
Okay. Ms. Magyar, do you have any other updates?
Do I have any other updates? No, we got graduation happening on May 30th, which is a little bit earlier this year, so we're getting ready for that, and just looking forward to a smooth close of the school year, and yeah.
I'd like to share with the board. I attended the Leadership Institute in Polaris Hilton in Columbus, May 2nd and 3rd, put out by the Ohio School Board Association. I highly recommend this for board members to attend. It was a day and a half, Friday and Saturday. There were a total of 7 sessions that you could attend. There were several, there was 21 sessions offered. It was fabulous, very worthwhile. You have the ability to meet not only Ohio school board members from all the districts in Ohio. You network, you find out, or I found out, many of our issues are held by so many other school districts. And you have an opportunity to sit down and talk to other school board members throughout the state. And they have ideas, how they've handled situations. It's training, it's definitely professional development. I highly, highly recommend next year, keep it in mind, first weekend in May. They also have other institutes and so many OSBA members. You network, they give you their cards, how can I help you? They just guide you through being a solid, good, contributing school board member. You can always learn. And I just came out of there so upbeat and positive, and I just wanted to share that with everybody. Keep it in mind.
Thanks.
Kayla, you said it's the first weekend in May every year? Is it?
Every year. And several people, the same people seem, well, there was a few people that I knew, and these several people go every single year. And it's very, very worthwhile. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for sharing that.
All right. Next item on our agenda is executive session to discuss a couple of issues. Just as a reminder, when we go into executive session, we do not take any action. We will come out of executive session to adjourn the meeting, but we will take no further action after that point. So could I have a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes.
Motion carries. Board will enter executive session at 7:03 p.m.
Thank you.